I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? I want to make a comment here. The purpose of this meeting is to issue a beer license and to subject penalties to those that violate our beer ordinance. The next item on our agenda is a beer permit request. This is approval of a Class 6 special occasion permit for Pinnacle at Turkey Creek and Boys and Girls Club Sounds of Summer Events, located at 11403 Parkside Drive.
Yes, sir. This is very similar to the last special occasion beer permit they've requested, and all their documentation is in order. And the motion is to approve the special occasion beer permit for the Sounds of Summer for June 1st, July 6th, August 3rd, from 6 to 9 p.m.
Okay, I see we have a representative. Would you
Yes.
please
Good
tell us your
evening.
name and your home address?
Yeah, my name is Kristen Bridgers. I'm the marketing manager for the Pinnacle at Turkey Creek. My home address is 229 McPhee Road, right down the street, but our address for the event is 11251 Parkside Drive at the Pinnacle Shopping Center.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the event.
This is the third year for Sounds of Summer. We've raised almost $15,000 for the Boys and Girls Club in just 2 years for this event. It is a summer concert series. Each night we feature 2 different artists. We'll have some food trucks there, some kids' activities, and it's live music. We're creating a park-like setting up in the parking lot, very similar to Fido Fest, and inviting families to come out, listen to live music, and just have an evening of fun.
Is this the same location as Fido?
Yeah,
Same
it's
exact-
going to be
yeah.
up there where Charming Charlie was.
Always make sure it's in Farragut.
Yes.
We're right on the line there.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
The first year you guys are in Farragut, right? You've
That's
held
correct.
it
Yes, ma'am. We've typically had these events on the Knox
County
City side.
Yeah, city
Yeah,
side,
so we haven't had to appear at these meetings, but since we have a vacancy up there in that phase of our shopping center, it makes sense, and it's a great event area, so.
Yeah. I have no other questions.
I have none.
Food trucks, has that been addressed?
I
Okay,
think we got our first application today.
okay.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the special occasion beer permit?
Second.
All right. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, congratulations, you got your permit.
Thank you very much.
Good
all.
luck to you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a hearing to address Smart Serve 800 North Campbell Station Road beer permit violation of Town of Farragut Code of Ordinances 8-201 et sec.
Yes, sir. The Knox County Sheriff's Department performed a beer sting on various businesses within the town of Farragut on March the 15th. During the operation, an employee of the Smart Serve sold alcohol to a minor, and a copy of that citation was attached to your packets. The Beer Board, per Section 8-221, has the power to revoke or suspend Smart Serve's beer permit, or they can offer a civil penalty as an alternate to revocation or suspension. With respect to such permittee, the board may, at the time it imposes the revocation or suspension, offer the permittee to alternate pay a civil penalty not to exceed $2,500 for each offense of making and permitting to make any sales to the minors. The permit holder shall have 7 days within to pay the civil penalty before the revocation or suspension shall be imposed. If the civil penalty is not received within 7 days, the revocation or suspension shall begin 8 days after the beer board hearing. If within the 7 days, if the civil penalty is paid within that time, the revocation or suspension shall be deemed withdrawn. Payment of the civil penalty is paid within the time, the revocation, going the wrong line again, by a permit holder shall be admission by the holder of the violation so charged and shall be paid to the exclusion of any other penalty that the town may impose. So you have two options tonight. The motion is to find Smart Serve guilty or not guilty of the violation of selling beer to a minor. And if found guilty, the motion is to give a penalty of your choosing for violation of beer sales to a minor at Smart Serve.
Okay, who is going to present the...
Chief May is here with the Knox County Sheriff's Office, and Tom Hale, our attorney, will take it from here.
Chief Alan May, Knox County Sheriff's Office. I'm the beer inspector.
On the 15th of March, 2018, I sent an underage minor into Smart Serve, 800 North Campbell Station Road, Farragut, Tennessee, and the undercover person bought a 6-ounce can of Bud Light.
Yes. Is the representative, could you introduce yourself to us, please,
Yes,
sir?
absolutely. Even though the hearing notice says, Mr. Patel, I am Aziz Karani, the owner of Smart Sub number 6. Mr. Patel couldn't make it, and besides that, I felt more relevant myself to be present at this hearing, as this is of immense importance to me and my business, that this sort of stuff does not happen again.
Sir. We have a rather elaborate procedure you've probably been given a copy of.
Yes.
Where we have a rather similar to what you would find if you went to any court system. What we generally do at the beginning of these proceedings is allow the party charged to tell us whether or not they believe that there has been a violation, and if they wish to plead guilty, then we avoid all of this back and forth with proof and evidence and so forth. And I think we would like to ask at this point if you feel like there has been a violation committed, and if you plead guilty, then we will move on down to the penalty phase.
Yes, so Mr. Hale, I have received a copy of the citation as well as the procedures of the Farragut Beer Board. And at this time, I do believe that there has been a violation at my business, and I would like to plead guilty of this violation.
All right. Thank you, sir. I think at this point, then, we skip down to step number 10 in the procedure, where the board will, I think we've heard enough about what the violation is, so I think we like to give the accused party an opportunity to present any information that you have that might constitute mitigation of the event, and address the board about what you have done about this matter, and help the board understand what you're going to do to avoid it happening again.
Absolutely, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address that matter, and I will address everything that you've mentioned. To begin, I just want to make a statement that, we have operated this particular business since 2011. Since then, we've been investigated by KSO about 4 times. I do have copies of all the letters written to us by Sheriff J.J. Jones commending us of the good job that we've done in avoiding underage sales. Besides that, we also operate the Shell gas station across the street. We've been there since '98. And I'm proud to say that we've never had this sort of stuff happen to us there in 20 years. However, this is clearly a clerical error on the part of our clerk, who did check the ID, but only checked the year and not the month. And that's how he, made the sale, obviously not intentionally, but unintentionally, regardless of the fact the sale was made. This particular individual has been given a written warning, and will be going to Knoxville Police Department's ASK program next week to get recertified and retrained on selling beer at our establishment. And hopefully we will make sure that this sort of stuff does not happen again.
Thank you very much. Board members, do you all have any questions that you would like to ask?
I have none.
I have none.
None.
All right.
How old was the person who?
All right.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to review with the board what our options are. The suspension of his license can be from 7 to 28 days and fined up to $2,500. It's been suggested that first offense, $500, 14 days, second offense, $1,000, 21 days, and third offense, $2,500, 28 days. Now, these are just suggestions, but we do need to consider either a fine or suspension or both.
Can you name those off again?
The suspension is from 7 to 28 days. The
First
fine
offense is, I'm sorry, first offense
offense was $500 in 14 days. That's, again, that's a suggested
and/or?
and/or.
Okay,
Do you want the other two?
yes.
Second offense, $1,000 in 21 days. Third offense, $2,500 in 28 days.
John Schoonmaker, is that what the Knox County,
What we do is
I'm sorry.
John Schoonmaker, 144 Tanrare Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee. Knox County Commission's Beer Committee has a policy of first offense, the choice of a 30-day suspension or a $1,000 fine, and it goes up from there. So we just recently had one where it was their third offense. They were actually fined $2,500 and lost their right to sell beer in Knox County for 30 days. So we have a standard first offense $1,000 fine,
Okay,
and every venue pays the $1,000 and does not take the option. We give them the option of the 30 days, and they do not take it. They pay the $1,000.
thank you.
And that's the way our ordinance reads, is it's the option.
Yep.
The accused party has the right to choose which.
But we don't have the same level
No,
as they,
that's
that's
right.
not in our ordinance.
It's not.
It's not, okay.
This is just a suggestion.
Yes, I understand. Okay. I have no other questions.
We need to decide on a financial fine or a suspension fine, or both. So a $500 fine would be first offense, or would you rather have a 14-day suspension of your license?
We would like to pay the fine.
I'm sorry.
We would like to pay the fine.
Okay. Board? We okay with that? Any
I need a motion.
I'll just say again, I would love it if we tied our fines and offenses to Knox County, but I understand we've had that discussion before, and I was in the minority with that one.
Okay.
I realize it's pretty tricky business, making those decisions on a daily basis, and all the people that come through your store. It is commendable that you've been in business in town since 2011 and even 1998, and this is the first time you've had this problem, and I'm certainly willing to take that into consideration. So do we
I need a motion. I need a motion.
I make a motion then that we fine the defendant $500.
I'll second.
All right. Vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, you've been fined $500.
Thank you.
And keep in mind, a second offense, it's going to go up.
Absolutely.
All right.
Hopefully it won't happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Business for the beer board? If not, we are adjourned.
We got a minute or two.
They're bringing the robot.
Or are they bringing it?
Scouts in the audience? Any scouts in the audience? You're working on your ego, are you? Are you?
We also announce if anyone plans on speaking to fill out a blue card in the back.
Want you to do that now?
Sure.
We got a minute here. If anybody wants to speak tonight, you need to fill out a blue card at the table in the back of the room by the door and turn it in to our recorder here on the left, my left. Are you all scouts?
It's robotic. Got one, maybe.
Okay. We get everybody in here and settle. We're going to start this meeting.
Just a couple of things. I'll talk you through it tonight. Just a couple of changes to the ordinance that I'll talk you through.
Thank you.
Louise wants to read this.
It's the most people we've had here in a long time.
I got everybody in.
Yep, we're ready.
We're going to call the Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for April 26, 2018 to order. The first thing I'd like to do is have everybody stand for a prayer. We're going to have, Clay Council? Would you step to the podium and lead us in prayer? And then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to have some scouts help us lead that, please.
Let's bow our heads. Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the opportunity to gather here together tonight. We're thankful for the democratic process. We're thankful for our leaders. We're grateful for their servant hearts. We pray that Thou might be with them tonight. We pray that a blessing will be upon them for their service, for their time away from their families, for their dedication to this town, and for their leadership in helping us move forward. We pray that Thou might bless them with sound judgment and good decision-making as they hear the matters that are placed before them tonight. We pray a blessing upon this town and the families that reside in it to live according to the promises Thou hast given us, that if we treat each other kindly and with respect and love, that we can live in peace and harmony. We pray for these blessings and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I'd like to have some of the scouts that are here come down front so you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. At least one? At least one? Come on down front. Our flag's over here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Now, here we'll put you to work.
Okay, the mayor has arrived. You want me to take? All right, I will continue. Next item is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Agenda's been approved. Next is the mayor's report. Mayor?
I could say a lot about today, but I'll skip it. And otherwise, I don't have any report.
Anybody else want to make any comment?
We're going to be honoring the Farragut High School flagship first robotics team tonight, and Allison will read it.
I have a proclamation for
All right.
us.
Great.
So whereas the schools located in the town of Farragut are assets to our community and excel in many areas from academics to competitive activities. And whereas the Farragut High School staff, students, and parents of students have reason to celebrate achievements in this academic year. And from time to time, the achievements of groups of students are so great that they are worthy of notice and celebration. Whereas Flagship 3140, a 42-student robotics team whose mission is to have fun, igniting imagination and ingenuity, is hosted by the town of Farragut, by the Farragut High School. Whereas in 2017, Flagship 3140 won the 2017 First Robotics Smoky Mountain Regional Competition with 2 alliance teams and placed at the 2017 First Robotics World Championships. And whereas in 2018, Flagship 3140 won the 2018 First Robotics Palmetto Regional Competition with 2 alliance teams, earning the honor to compete at the 2018 First World Championships in Houston, Texas, on April 16th through the 21st of 2018. Whereas at the World Championship, Flagship 3140 ranked 28 out of 67 in their division and won 3rd place in safety out of 450 teams in all divisions. And now, therefore, Dr. Ralph McGill, the town of Farragut, does hereby congratulate Flagship 3140 team and their mentors for their accomplishments. Thank you.
Have the team up here with your mentors, and come on up and we'll get a picture of all of you. And while they're assembling, I wanted to let you all know, Eric, and I'm going to butcher your last name, Manishment. He was named a Woody Flowers finalist, which is a huge deal in the First Robotics competition. It's a mentor that's gone above and beyond. I will also say Jane Skinner has been with this team for quite some time. Jane, how long have you served? 9 years. It takes a lot of time and dedication for the teachers and the mentors to be part of this team. So it's... Oh, yes, she did. Patience, she won the Dean's. They've done this team is amazing. If you guys start feeling bad about this population, go to one of these competitions. These kids are absolutely amazing. They're bright and they're polite. And I want a picture.
The adults stand and back. Students kneel. Adults stand and back.
This is cool.
That's funny.
I don't want to block. You guys like shift this way.
Okay, on the count of 3. 1,
Announce it again.
2, 3. Great. Thank you all.
Thank you all for coming, and congratulations. And I hope you've gotten some rest after all of this season. I know. Well, good luck.
Oh, darn.
We'll get these.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. It is a very big deal. We need to celebrate them when they do great stuff. Good. It's pretty cool.
Thank you, Miss Shaw's meeting, but I was just here for the kids.
Thanks for coming.
You gotta love it. That's cute.
All right, we're going to move along. Next item is Citizens Forum. Do we have anybody signed up?
There's no one signed up.
I want to ask everybody again, if you want to speak tonight, you need to fill out the little blue card that's on the table back by the door and need to turn it into our town recorder over here to my left. Okay? Approval of minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Next is business items. Approval of special event signage for the Knoxville Open Golf Tournament. Excuse me.
I'm getting there. Just give me a second. There we go. All right. The Knoxville Open has submitted their special event permit application requesting permission to place directional signage in the Farragut right-of-ways during the golf tournament. For the past few years, the Knoxville Golf Tournament has requested these, and permission has been granted. The requested placement of the directional signs is illustrated on the screen. The signs will be erected on Saturday, May 5th, and will be removed by close of business on May 14th. As requested, no directional signs will be closer than 200 feet to any intersection. The motion is to approve proposed placement of the directional signage within the town of Farragut's right-of-ways for the Knoxville Golf Open Tournament.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve proposed
Second.
placement.
All right, discussion? Do we have a representative, first of all? Would you step up to the microphone? Give us your name. That's all right. You're okay for this. State your name and your home address, please.
Yep, Stan Norris, and then my home address is 11337 Gates Mill Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37934.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to say to start out with before we...
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited to be back in the Farragut area as well with our golf tournament. It's 29th year. We've had a couple of changes. We're at Knoxville Open this year, but we're benefiting the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Tennessee Valley. So really excited about that 20th year at Foxton Country Club. So it's May 7th through the 13th. We'd love to see everybody out there.
Terrific.
I have no questions.
None.
All right, no further questions. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you again. Thank you for
you.
coming back. Next item, approval, this is a business item, approval of agreement from Benchmark Associates Incorporated for survey services at Campbell Station Inn located at 101 North Campbell Station Road.
Good evening. First, let me say I discovered a math error in the memo that I placed in the board's packets for tonight. I can't tell you how embarrassing that is when there's a math error anyway. To admit it in front of the board is horrendous. To do it in front of a large audience, it just really caps my evening. This item is approval of an agreement with Benchmark Associates for survey work at the site of the Campbell Station Inn project. As you know, currently we have a stabilization project going on. It's phase 2. That's going on right now. Recently, you approved a contract with Brewer Ingram Fuller for design services for what we're calling the Park and Roads project, which is the exterior of the property. That agreement did not include survey services. It was excluded. We typically we've worked with Benchmark Associates on so many of our projects. This is an agreement for platting services, topographic surveys, which with this amendment that we're including tonight would include work off-site with the White Realty property as well as Kingston Pike and the locating driveways on the opposite sides. The original agreement that we had with Benchmark had a total fee of $9,250. Typically, with smaller agreements like that are under $10,000, we can approve those at the staff level. Our own purchasing requirements require that anything over $10,000 we bring to the board for approval. It was discovered that a few items that the designers wanted included in the survey services had not been included in the scope. So we've attached an amendment that requires an additional $2,500 in fee. So that brings the total amount to $11,750. So we decided to make this an amendment, bring the whole agreement to the board for your approval. So Staff is recommending approval of this agreement with Benchmark Associates for survey services at the site of the Campbell Station Inn with a total fee of $11,750.
Discussion?
Move to approve agreement with Benchmark Associates for the services for total fee of $11,750.
Second.
Discussion?
What was why was it more than what we anticipated?
We really had not, we had actually been asked to include several of these other items in our scope. That was back in August. I was not involved at the time. When I sat down with Benchmark to go over the scope, we determined what needed to be done. And then it came back later after we had already executed the smaller agreement.
Timing issue, is that what you're saying?
Pardon me?
A timing issue?
It's partly a timing issue, partly the fact that I wasn't aware that they needed the additional information. I thought it had been included, but it was not.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions.
None.
I have none.
None.
Just one more. So you're recommending for approval of this?
Yes, with a total fee of $11,750, not $10,750 like I had in my memo.
So do we need to amend the motion to make it for
I made the-
11,750?
I made the motion for
That was the motion.
11,000.
Okay. All right. I have no more questions.
All right. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Darrell.
Allison, would you like for me to correct this for the record?
I got it.
Thank you.
All right, next item. Ordinances. Public hearing and second reading for Ordinance 18-02, ordinance amending the State Street Aid Fund budget of the fiscal year 2017 through 2018, passed by Ordinance 17-09.
Yes, sir. This is the exact same thing we had on first reading. There have been no changes, and it's an increase of appropriate expenditures from $983,000 to $1,504,000. And the motion is to approve Ordinance 1802 on second and final reading.
Move to approve ordinance 18-02.
Second.
Discussion.
I'm none.
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 Okay, time for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, first reading, ordinance 18-04, ordinance to add Title V Municipal Finance and Taxation by adding Chapter 1 Hotel/Motel Tax of the Farragut Municipal Code.
Vice Mayor and Board, this agenda item has been part of the board's strategic plan since dating back to 2010. Recently, the staff hired our first tourism program coordinator. We got the program started just a couple of months back, but with recent legislation that the Tennessee General Assembly eliminated the hall income tax, what it's done is put pressure on cities all across the state to reallocate funding with the Improve Act from our general fund, and we'll be losing approximately $1 million a year in just 2 years, 3 years from that decision, which is great for, again, many people across the state of Tennessee, but it does have ramifications to municipalities such as Farragut. One of the things we've been talking about is trying to attract more visitors and tourists to our area, and how can we do that? And so the objective of that was to start a tourism program. One of the things we looked at in order to fund that program was the possibility of implementing a hotel-motel tax. The proceeds from the tax would go straight toward tourism development. One of the things we had to do was go to the state legislature to get approval to actually be able to enact a hotel-motel tax locally. Recently, the Tennessee General Assembly did approve House Bill 1492 and Senate Bill 1503, which would authorize the town of Farragut to levy a privilege tax on the occupancy of any hotel located in the town for a not-to-exceed amount of 4% of the rate charged to the customer by the operator of the hotel. And Governor Haslam signed that bill into law on April 12th. In order for this authorization to occur, though, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen are required to adopt an ordinance by 2/3 vote of the governing body, and the proceeds from this tax must be used for tourism development. What Ordinance 1804 would do is authorize the town, again, to implement a tax of up to 4% on the room rate of visitors. If a transient stays at a hotel for more than 30 consecutive days, they would not be required to pay the tax. The hotels would be required to pay the tax by the 20th day of each month for the preceding month, or delinquent taxes would be owed. In the financial aspects of this, we've included that. It's really up to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. A percentage, if you approve this ordinance, whether it be 1, 2, 3, or up to 4%, or any number in between. And there's some tables there that show you what we anticipate those revenues would be based on sales taxes generated from the hotels over the past year. The town would develop a separate special revenue fund for a tourism fund that would track both revenues and expenditures, and we've attached a preliminary budget estimate that would need to be formally adopted during the budget process over the next month or month and a half. Overall, this does meet the town's strategic plan. This past year, the board adopted our strategic plan back in the fall. A couple of priority initiatives that we had were to hire a tourism coordinator to implement the town's marketing plan, which we've been able to accomplish. And the other priority initiative that we had was to be able to establish a dedicated funding mechanism for tourism marketing and capital infrastructure investment. In Ordinance 1804, I passed out a copy at your desk here tonight. There are a couple of minor amendments that we would propose after Attorney Tom Hale and I spoke about this. In Section 5-109, dealing with delinquent taxes, there is a statement there that the sentence on the top of page 4 would read, each occurrence of willful or knowing refusal of an operator to collect or remit the tax, or willful or knowing refusal of a transient to pay the tax imposed, is a Class A misdemeanor. That would be the addition, punishable by a civil penalty not to exceed $50 per day per offense. This comes directly out of the state law that is in TCA. And also down in Section 5-112, deposit of funds. That's also been amended to read, the town recorder is hereby charged with the duty of collection of the tax herein authorized, and shall place the proceeds of such tax in an account to be used for the purposes as designated by Section 5-104 of this chapter. With that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that the board has.
I'm going to move to approve Ordinance 18-04 as amended on first reading to add Title V Municipal Finance and Taxation of the Farragut Municipal Code by adding Chapter 1 Hotel Motel Tax.
I'll second.
All right, time for discussion. First of all, do we have anybody in the audience that wants to step forward and talk? Because now this will be your chance.
We have 3 speakers that have signed up to speak.
All right. Who's first?
Our first one is Jeff Elliott.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Elliott, 12617 Red Canyon Road, 29-year resident of this community. I've been a volunteer in a lot of activities, including my privilege to have served as a member of this board in a while back. And by the way, the board looks a lot brighter since I've been off it, and I think it's the wattage somehow. I should have worn sunglasses tonight. Your guys are glowing tonight, I'll tell you. Well, certainly, I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the hotel motel tax. I see this as a very straightforward funding opportunity, as we're losing several $100,000 a year from the hall tax, and this lodging tax is a good way to recoup these dollars and to be able to continue moving forward with our tourism and economic development initiatives, as we'll now have a dedicated stream of dollars from this lodging tax. This lodging tax doesn't come from our residents or businesses. It comes from people who are visiting this area and spending money in our area. Lodging taxes are nothing new, been around a long time. I looked at the MTAS website. 85% of Tennessee's counties have a lodging tax. Almost 70 towns and cities have implemented lodging taxes. Nationwide, 35 states allow lodging taxes. MTAS says most of these dollars are designated for tourism, building conference centers. I had the opportunity to contact Allison Souza. Many of us remember her from working with the Farragut Business Alliance. She's over next door with that beautiful new Lenore City facility. And Allison was telling me that 29% of Loudoun County's lodging tax goes to support their Visitors Bureau and directly promotes area attractions, hotels, and restaurants, and of course their new conference center. The lodging tax is in place all around us, and I simply do not believe that anyone would be changing hotel accommodations based on whether a lodging tax is imposed. You would expend more in a ever costly gas just driving to another exit. According to an October 2015 report by MTAS, it was entitled Structuring Lodging Taxes to Preserve the Economy and Encourage Tourism. And this report, while it stated there hasn't been a lot of research done on this topic, what was available, MTAS shared one of their conclusions, that lodging customers are generally able to bear price increases from lodging taxes, but that customer sensitivity varies from place to place, with lodging taxes having little effect on hotel development and the overall economy. On a more personal note, whenever I traveled for business throughout the Southeast and went to see relatives down in Florida, we would use a lot of hotel rooms. And our youngest son right now is playing college ball. We're every other weekend we are on the road somewhere in the Southeast. We put on over 25 nights here in the last couple of months. So we're getting a real workout on the hotel rooms on that side. And while we do check rates, what we never ask about are the add-on costs. I mean, we call about rates, but we just never ask about add-on costs. And I doubt if anybody in this room, or very few, would ever ask that question. More often or not, we're focused on how close is the hotel to where we're playing our ball games, whether we've got customer reward points that we can use, and how good is the complimentary breakfast. And I believe, and I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that when it comes to lodging taxes, that's just part of the cost of doing business. It's just like the ever-present sales tax in the state of Tennessee. We pay it just about on everything, which means we just add price and we put the price core of the room, hotel room, the restaurant, the meal, the new car, we focus on that core price. That's really what we're all talking about. What is the core price? And we just assume there's going to be applied taxes as we go through this. A lodging tax is just another add-on, all but invisible to the customer. Core costs represent a level playing field. I'm unaware of any business promoting its product by including add-on taxes in the advertised price. I urge a yes vote on this measure and hope our area hotel folks will become a part of the town's tourism team and be supportive. I know if I owned a business and someone wanted to spend some money promoting it, I would certainly be all in on that. From what I've read in our local papers, the town staff and this board, and we heard this evening, has spent a lot of time working on this initiative, along with actively reaching out to get our hotels and board involved. I really hope the hotel representatives present will look at the bigger picture, see the benefits of having a designated stream of dollars from a lodging tax. These dollars will be used to fund a rising tide of expanded promotion of tourism, such as for the Russell House, the museum, along with athletic tournaments on our wonderful turf fields. And it's this rising tide which I very much believe will lift all of our hotels and restaurants. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Our next speaker is Darren Talent.
Allison, is our clock working?
I'm sorry?
Is our clock working?
It is. I just got it.
Hello, Darren Talent, 1300 Hickory Oak Lane, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919. I'm the general manager of the Hampton Inn and Suites here in Farragut, and don't have any long speech. I just want to give you kind of a real world example of what we're going to be dealing with if the tax is passed. So we have a corporate account, let's say, and their rate's $120. You guys impose a 4% tax. The invoices I send them are going to start going up by 4%. So what's their question to us going to be? It's going to be, why is our total price going up? We're going to say, well, there's a new tax. So when negotiations come around the next year, and obviously they want to cut costs, we want to increase rates, they're going to be like, well, this extra tax is going to cost us more money, so then therefore the hotel's not going to be able to raise rates for the following year. And I would agree with the gentleman that just spoke. We're all about tourism. I think with the lack of what we've seen and why we're not for it right now is a clear-cut plan of what the money would be used for. because we haven't really seen a plan that's going to create us revenue other than maybe some athletic events and stuff like that. But it's going to take a lot more than just a few soccer tournaments to really bring us more revenue. So I think we're definitely behind it. If we can see a plan that's going to help tourism, we're all for it. Obviously, if it's going to help us, we're for it. But right now, we don't see that happening. So between just 9 businesses that's kind of getting singled out here, and we kind of feel like, obviously, the tax is going to be imposed to make up for the revenue that you guys will be losing. So I just kind of want to give you our stance as hotels. We're all for it if we can come together and get a plan together. And I'd like to see if the tax is passed, which sounds like it probably will be, that you involve us on some committees and things like that to where we can get involved and promote Farragut as an actual tourist attraction. Because it's our thought right now is it's not an actual tourist destination right now. So we want to see a clear-cut vision on how we're going to get there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Darren.
Our next speaker is Tom Rossio.
Good evening. I'm Tom Rossio. I live at 425 Clover Fork Drive. I'm also, like Jeff, a former alderman in the town of Farragut, and I'm here to support the hotel motel tax. Jeff, I think, went through a very good description of all the pluses, and I won't add a whole lot more. I'm going to make mine short and sweet. I travel extensively for business and for personal reasons, probably 20, 25 times a year. I do never look at the hotel motel tax when I make a decision. It's based on location, location, location. That's the primary thing. And I think anything that will help the town with its tourism is a great thing. So my support is complete, and I urge you to support in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Those are all the speakers who've signed up.
What's that?
Those are all of the speakers.
That's it? Okay. Board discussion?
Well, I'll start it off. I made a few notes because I wanted to make sure that I covered everything. Clearly, our town was founded without a property tax 38 years ago, a seemingly unsustainable approach to fund even a limited service municipality, and yet we are thriving. Retail is changing, though, and the Improve Act negatively impacted our bottom line. We need to explore, capitalize on, and maximize every opportunity we can identify to increase retail sales and restaurant activity in our town if we wish to continue to rely on business-generated revenue as our primary funding source. To that end, in late 2016, we engaged the services of Girl on the Roof to effectively market the town. That contract was awarded to them. They conducted some research and discovery. They prepared a report that was presented to the EDAC in March of 2017 that provided marketing ideas from a resident, visitor, and business perspective. In May of 2017, they provided their strategy and recommendations report and a detailed actionable marketing plan. Shortly after Girl on the Roof contract was fulfilled, we contracted with Novak Consulting Group for strategic planning services. After several meetings, an updated strategic plan was finalized in September of 2017 and presented in November of 2017. That plan identified several critical success factors and priority initiatives to begin to fulfill those critical success factors. Both the Girl on the Roof plan and the strategic plan referred to implementing a tourism program and establishing a dedicated funding mechanism to support that program. Our tourism program is geared towards funding tourism development in part to capitalize on the secondary economic benefits that hotel visitors produce. In October 2017, this board voted 4-1 to fund a tourism director position to begin work on the detailed actionable marketing plan based on the recommendations from Girl on the Roof. In February of this year, the town hired Karen Tyndall to fill the tourism director position, and she's been working on that marketing plan. I will say to all of you that once we're done discussion, I'm going to be making a motion to amend our proposed ordinance to put in a 2.5% hotel tax. I think that adequately funds the current proposed program. It keeps us under City of Knoxville's rate, and it's half of Lenore City's rate. I think that's a good place to start. If a future board or in the future we decide that this is an effective program and we think that the hotels can weather an increase, then we should look at that then. But I'm not supportive of anything over 2.5% at this point. The funds generated need to be held as is stated in the ordinance in a separately dedicated account to support tourism. And as was stated by Mr. Talent, a tourism committee needs to be created and include input from the hotels. This cannot, it will not survive without help from our hotels because you guys know what's going on out there. I think Karen will be a great place to get in and find the niches that you might be missing out on we can get into your hotels, but we can't do this unless we have a partnership. And those are my points.
You want to go?
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I'd like to comment on Mr. Elliott's remarks first. I'm sorry he's left. He said that he says that this will replace lost revenue from the hall income tax, and then turns around and says it will provide a steady stream of dollars for tourism development. Which one is it? It can't be both. We're talking about replacing a lost revenue stream and then getting another revenue stream that's not going to replace it, but it's going to fund something different. That doesn't make sense. Secondly, I don't know who paid Mr. Elliott's hotel bills, and I don't know who pays Tom Roseal's hotel bills, but as one who traveled, pardon?
I paid him. I paid my hotel bill.
He's here. All right. Thank you for that clarification. Because as one who traveled, who worked in 15 states, who traveled this country extensively and who stayed in hotels for weeks on end with a crew, I was very sensitive to the cost, and not just the rate, but the cost. And in talking with travel professionals and travel planners, and listening to the hotel motel owners and their associations, I know that is the case with all professional travel planners. That they look at the overall cost when they're booking rooms for their clients. Now, having addressed that, I want to say that our presentation tonight is a little bit deceptive because it says that we've been considering this since 2010. Well, I was on this board in 2009, and I remember when this first came up in the Economic Development Committee in 2009, and we kicked it around. Hey, we have the possibility of having a hotel motel tax, and we kicked it around. We talked about it, so we need to research this. We need to look into it, and we did. And so it came up on the strategic plan in 2010, and I carry these around with me. 2010. One of the top priorities was the hotel motel tax direction. Decide which way to go with that. 2011, it was on there again that we need to consider that. We need to look at it. In 2012, we actually put it on an agenda, and in 2013, it came before this board. It was studied, it was considered, and it was rejected. And now, here we are again, 5 years later. I'm wondering why this board would reverse itself, why this has come up again. And I see, in studying this, an awful lot of problems with it. I would ask this board, have you read the 58-page TACIR report from January of 2016? Have you read it in its entirety? I have. And frankly, it raises more questions than it answers. Something that I think it was Mr. Elliott said that this that's in that report says customer sensitivity varies from place to place, and I would submit that Farragut is a very different place, and we have a lot of hotels around us. We are not a tourist destination, but we've become a hospitality destination for a very good reason. And I would submit that it's because of our favorable tax structure, and it is feeding our economy. Our steadily rising revenues would indicate that that is the case. So I'm looking at this, and I have 18 questions that need to be answered before we can address this. And it's my sense that this board feels that they're prepared to meet all those all those issues and render a decision tonight that will affect this town in a very important way, that will drastically change our funding structure, that we begin down a slippery slope of taxation, particularly by singling out a single industry. Of the 300 businesses we have in town, we pick on these 9, and I'll tell you that all 9 of them have contacted us, and I know they've written every member of this board that they are opposed to this tax, and they've given some very good reasons for it, some of which I'll share with you tonight. Now, that being the case, I ask this board, is it your sense, do you feel confident that we are prepared to vote on this, a matter of this importance tonight?
Yes.
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 Okay. Well then, Mr. Chairman, I think this leaves me no alternative but to rise to a point of order. But before I state my reasons for rising to this point of order, I want to make sure that I want to verify that our cameras are running, that our audio equipment is working. Can we verify that that is the case?
Sure.
Because I want this to be on the record. In good shape?
We are.
Thank you. As an elected representative of the citizens of the town of Farragut, I remind my fellow members of this board not to ignore their sacred obligations placed on you by the citizens of this town and by the sacred oath that each of you swore in this very building to act with prudence and fairness in the best interests of this town. Therefore, I will propose an alternate motion to the motion before us tonight because of the points of fact pertaining to it, which I will now enumerate for the record. Number 1, all 9 hotels in this town are in the North Ward, represented by myself and Alderman Pavlin. We are duty bound to represent their interests. Number 2, the town has legislative approval for this proposed tax, and that authority is secure. There is no urgency to do this. Number 3, town revenues continue to trend upward, as I stated and as we have noted in our budget studies. Number 4, the town has no debt. Number 5, the town has a healthy surplus. Number 6, all our capital improvement projects are funded. Number 7, no need has been demonstrated for this tax. Number 8, all 9 hotels oppose this tax and have so stated on numerous occasions. Number 9, the TACI report of January 6, 2016 is ambiguous, lengthy, and complex and raises as many questions on this matter as it answers. It begs further study, analysis, and debate as it applies to our particular case. It's different for we're not Sevierville. We're a very special case. Number 10, the Farragut West Knox Chamber of Commerce has neither studied this issue nor canvassed its members, has made no report to the town, has not been requested to do so. Number 11, the Farragut Business Alliance has neither studied this issue nor canvassed its members and has made no report to this town, nor has it been asked to do so. Number 12, the town's own Economic Development Advisory Committee has neither studied this issue nor been consulted by this board on this matter. Number 13, ramifications go far beyond the hotels directly impacted by this tax. As it's stated in the TACIR report, it will also impact collateral town businesses like Cracker Barrel, First Watch, Red Robin, Pilot, Weigel's, Publix, Wild Wing Cafe, et cetera, who rightly deserve a voice in this discussion, who probably don't have any idea how this is going to impact them. And until we do some studies, until we do some projections, we're not ready to vote on this. Number 14, this board has not been adequately educated to all the potential ramifications and unintended consequences of this tax. I know I have not. Historically, any matter of this consequence has been workshopped publicly once due diligence has been done and all the facts are gathered. Number 15, our citizens have not been educated to all the potential ramifications and unintended consequences of this tax, nor has their voice been heard. All they hear is another $500,000 we're going to have to spend. Number 16, this tax is manifestly discriminatory, singling out one class of citizens. It puts this board in a position of picking winners and tilting the playing field. That is unacceptable. Number 17, no moral justification has been presented for this action. Number 18, this tax represents a radical departure from the founding principles of this town, from one of fiscal responsibility to one of tax and spend. We complain about the swamp in Washington. We're heading down that same slope ourselves right now. It's an action of grave consequence that could cause great harm to the town and must be approached with the utmost prudence and abundance of caution. A vote on this tax at this time would appear imprudent, reckless, premature, and irresponsible. And lastly, for one other reason, well known to each and every member of this board, which I will not name at this time, it would be very inappropriate for this board to vote on this tax today. Because of the aforementioned, I hereby make an alternate motion that this board table this motion for a proposed hotel motel tax until the new board is constituted after the August 2nd election and the 18 issues above have been properly addressed by them. Now, I need a second to open discussion on this alternate motion so that any one of you opposing it can show for the record your reasons for doing so. If there is no second, then each of you is giving assent to imposing this tax without consideration of the aforementioned. That's all I have to say.
I'd like to comment next.
Well, we need a second.
Is there a second?
Well, there you have it, folks.
Okay, fails for lack of a second. I'd like to make some comments. First of all, Alderman Markley, you said that the tax, hotel motel tax in 2012 or 13 was rejected. It wasn't rejected. It went through first reading and passed. It was never brought up for a second reading. So it was not rejected, just never was brought up for a second reading.
Well, there's a reason why I wouldn't. I'm sorry, I won't interrupt.
Thank you.
You mentioned that Jeff Elliott's comments about we're losing revenue and this money coming in, there was some, in your mind, some confusion over that. I think the intent was that the money coming in would be put back into marketing. And I went to a National League conference, and there was a session creating a destination brand. It was put on by the Charlotte Regional Visitor Authority. And for every dollar spent on advertising, the local businesses saw a return on investment of $115. So I think that's the intent of the money coming in from the hotel motel taxes to be put back into tourism to try to generate that much more revenue or somewhat more revenue. And the total tax return on investment was about $6 back to the city or town. Now, I want to review some things. One of the things you listed was about the EDAC. When I was elected in 2014, I was surprised to find that we didn't have a hotel motel tax. And most people I've talked to since then thought we had one as well. I have not found very, very few people opposing it. Almost everybody I talk to thinks we have it or wants it. It passed on first reading, as I said earlier, in 2013, but never came up for a second reading. In early 2016, we completed our branding program. In March of 2016, Alderman Bob Markley read a letter to BOMA from one of his constituents about the missed marketing opportunities from all of the traffic from the convergence of I-75 and I-40 near Farragut. He suggested very strongly that we pursue marketing our town. At the next meeting of the EDAC, which I'm a member of, I read this letter to them and suggested we look very strongly into taking this action. At our August 3rd, 2016 meeting, that's 2016, the EDAC discussed what Visit Knoxville was doing and decided that we needed to create a Visit Farragut type program. So we decided to create a subcommittee to look at marketing our town. Again, this was in August of 2016. The subcommittee met on August 11th, 2016 and decided to take 3 steps to move forward with hiring a firm to study the best way to market our town. And the results of that are we hired Girls on the Roof, and they submitted their final report in June of 2017. The second step was to ask Kim Bumpus from the Visit Knoxville to address the EDAC. The result, Kim Bumpus did make a presentation in June of 2017. Their budget was $4.2 million. She stated that over 40% of that money came from hotel motel taxes. 3, we plan to meet with the hotel motel owners and Jill Thompson with the GKAH. This took place in August 7th, 2017. At the September 2017 EDAC meeting, I gave a summary of the tourism subcommittee meeting of August 2017, which included the hotel motel representatives. Sue Stoll was present at that meeting to give an overview of the marketing plan from Girls on the Roof. Most of the talk was around how we could help advertise the hotels and motels. They said, the representatives from the hotels and motels, said that we do not use billboard advertising because with that type of advertising, it was too hard to track results. And yet when I travel, I see billboards all over the place advertising hotels. I'm not sure I understood that. We said there were many other ways we could still help with advertising in their type of business and that we might still want to pursue billboard advertising for the town. The hotel motel people told us that the town should consider demand-generated type functions such as athletic or entertainment events. We're looking at trying to bring some type of venue to our town. We have big box buildings that might be perfect for that sort of thing. So, we're working towards trying to bring more sporting events and have some type of facility for other meetings, entertainments, or weddings, receptions, whatever. Our final takeaway from the work of the subcommittee was that the town needed a marketing coordinator position, and we needed a marketing budget which could be funded by a hotel motel tax. And this is what we recommended to the ADAC.
Could you repeat that last sentence, please?
Our final takeaway from the work of the subcommittee was that the town needed a marketing coordinator position, and we needed a marketing budget which could be funded by a hotel motel tax.
Thank you.
Could be. That was a suggestion that we were making that was the subcommittee making a suggestion to the ADAC. And I've got to admit that what I heard earlier from some of the speakers, I traveled a lot when I was in business for 35 years. I made all my own travel arrangements, and I covered 6 states, a lot of cities, and when I made my reservations, I was always looking at base rate. I knew I had to pay a tax, but when I asked for a rate, when I would call and talk to a hotel representative, I asked what was the rate for a room that I wanted, and I was given a rack rate, a base rate. They usually said, this is the rate plus tax. Nobody ever told me what that tax was. When you look at a bill, there would be 2, 3, 4 different taxes on that bill. Never could make sense out of it. So I just always made my decisions based on the base rent. I also noticed quite a few fluctuations in prices. I could stay at a hotel 1 month, and 2 months later go back, and the price of that room could be up $20, $30, which I really never understood. I guess it's supply and demand depending if there were functions. Back in April of 2017, when the subcommittee was in force, I did a little study. I called all the hotels in Farragut, all 9 of them. I called all the hotels in Lenore City, 7 of them, and I called some of the hotels at Cedar Bluff. The range of rooms in Farragut on a Thursday was $50 to $124. On a Saturday, it was $61 to $104. In Lenore City, it was $48 to $114 on Thursday, and on Saturday, it was $48 to $126. I realized, and I also called some hotels in Cedar Bluff, and I looked at 2 chains, where there were hotels in all 3 of the towns, Lenore City, Farragut, and Cedar Bluff. And some of the rooms in Farragut, some of the hotels in Farragut where they had a sister location in another town, had their rates as much as 18% higher. One chain, and the other chain had a rate of 16% higher. So, I just don't understand how these other towns have taxes of 3 to 5%, and they fluctuate their rates. Again, on the same day, 2 different hotels had rate changes of up to 18%. So there must be some flexibility that they have in their rates. And I am for the tax, and I was for the 4%.
I'd like to respond to that.
Oh, man. Can we all talk first?
Sure, yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate that, Bob.
Yes, sir.
From what I've received in emails from the hotel owners and managers, there's been many. They state there's no tourism attractions in our town and no reason for a hotel tax. And I have to disagree with that. According to the 2017 Tennessee Department of Tourism report, some of the attractions we have in our town consist of the Farragut Museum, the sporting events on our fields, water recreation on our lakes, visiting historic sites, dining in our fine restaurants, shopping in Turkey Creek, and just plain visiting friends and relatives. Our state has a 2 years in a row, over $1 billion in economic impact generated from tourism. Started in 2016, happened also in 2017. The Tennessee Tourism states that the return on investment is $18 for every $1 spent, compared to the national average of $9 to every $1 spent. According to the 2016 Tennessee Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations report, close to half of the lodging tax revenue from the cities and the counties is used to fund convention centers, which was in everybody's email, but it also states or tourism programs, which for some reason was left out of the email. The same report goes on to say that the hotel customers in general are not very sensitive to occupancy tax. And I'll state this, for 33 years, the majority of the nights in my business were spent in hotels, with over 6,000 nightly stays. Not once did I ever study the choice of a hotel based on occupancy tax. In my mind, like all that I worked with in my field, we looked for well-maintained quality properties with great locations and amenities with nearby restaurants like the fine hotels we have here in Farragut. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, do you have anything?
I'm not ready to say anything. I have a hard day, so.
Well, I would like to address some of the things that have been said. First of all, I think if you'll check the record, you'll find that I've been probably the most staunch proponent that this town has ever had of promoting itself to the interstate and promoting tourism and visits off the interstate. Going back to my first year on this board, I recommended that we put a reader board on the interstate on our Fretz Road, Public Works Department property. We have some prime interstate frontage up there. That's just an overgrown bunch of weeds. I was the one that pushed to get identity for our town, to have the town signs that mark the boundaries and borders of the town, to designate this as a place so that you knew when you had arrived here. I am a staunch proponent of promoting this town, but you do not tax yourself and regulate yourself into prosperity. You provide something that people need. Now, so far, 2 former members of this board and 2 current members of this board have admitted they're not very shrewd travelers. They don't check the overall cost of their lodgings. I would submit that many do. In fact, probably most do, and all professionals, travel planners do. I think also that expenditures for tourism yield very high results. I agree with that. And the Economic Development Committee recognizes that. And Girl on a Roof recognizes that. None of them specifically recommended that we do a hotel motel tax. It was suggested as a possibility that we could look at. I think we need to examine carefully what the ramifications of that are going to be, because we're a very special case. Farragut is not like everybody else. We're not New Jersey. We're not Michigan. And we're certainly not Illinois. We're a special case, and I think we need to be a special case, and we don't get that way by doing what everybody else is doing. We are in a unique position to capitalize on the state's expenditures, the county's expenditures, regional expenditures for tourism, the city's expenditures for tourism, if we can promote the fact that we offer the most value for the traveler's dollar, that we have a shopping destination, a convenience destination, a hospitality destination, and that we have a lot of things here to see and do also as well. But I don't think we'll get there by taking advantage or by putting it on the back of one industry. If we're going to do something like this, let's tax all the businesses in town, a very small thing. If you're bent that we need a special flow of revenue to do this, I would submit that if we do it, if we make a budget line item, and if that means backing up one of our park projects or something like that for a little while to get this off the road, I'll submit that we will generate revenues. I've studied economics a little bit, and I know that you don't get more of something by taxing it. You get more of something by subsidizing it, by supporting it. And that's all I have to say tonight.
All right. I want to make an alternate motion to approve ordinance 18-04, amending section 5-103 to set the privilege tax rate at 2.5%.
I'll second that amendment.
And with that, I'll call the question.
All right, voting on the amended motion.
What's your motion again?
I'm moving to set the privilege tax rate at 2.5%.
Instead of the 4.
Instead of the 4, because that will fund what our budget calls for, and it seems to me we have room to move if we need to.
All right. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. We're about to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Let the record show that I am opposed to this measure.
So I have Alderman Pinchuk and Markley is no. Mayor, what was your vote?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Would you prefer
Say
a
that
roll
again.
call?
Let's
Can you
do a
do
roll
it?
call, please?
Can you do a roll call? Do you mind doing a roll call, Alderman or Vice Mayor?
Okay.
Come on, Alderman Markley.
It's going to fail.
No.
It fails with that way.
Alderman Pinchuk?
If you vote no, it fails, because I will not vote for 4%.
The alternate motion's what we're,
Yeah,
the amended motion's what we're voting on.
okay,
Voting on the 2.5% motion.
That is correct.
okay.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Yes.
Alderman Pavlin?
Yes.
Alderman Williams?
Yes.
Mayor McGill?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now, Alderman, you need to now vote on the main motion, which is the rest of the ordinance itself. That was just about the rate. Now this is
Okay.
for the rest of the ordinance itself.
Okay, we need a motion.
So we already have a
We
motion
already have a
and
motion and a
second.
second. Correct.
A motion and second. Okay, so we're calling for a vote. Okay, all in favor of the motion, read the motion, please.
Do me too.
I want to make sure we got it.
Motion is to approve ordinance 18-04 on first reading as amended. Earlier, as mentioned, there's a couple of amendments to make to add Title V, Municipal Finance and Taxation of the Farragut Municipal Code by adding Chapter 1, Hotel Motel Tax.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. All right, next we have Town Administrator's Report.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Town's Attorney's Report.
I have no report either.
Thank you.
If there's no further business, we're adjourned.
Sorry, but it's a good thing.
That's really.
I'll second.
House bill, the Secretary of State has signed that public chapter 700 on Monday of this week. So, how about that, 700?